just give me a wave.
Are we able to use the conversation tab as well in an ordinary meeting?
I don't think they like that, Dick, because it puts text up on the screen that they don't want to circulate. That was the last experience, I think.
Is that what it was?
Online,
okay.
We're starting the meeting.
2 minutes too.
So welcome to East Gippsland Shire Council's ordinary council meeting of 7 July 2020. Effective of 1 May 2020, amendments to the Local Government Act 2020 allows virtual council meetings to ensure decision making can continue during the coronavirus pandemic. The council meeting must be live streamed. East Gippsland Shire Council will live stream, record and publish its meeting via webcasting to enhance the accessibility of the meetings to the broader East Gippsland community. These recordings are archived and available for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. Pre-recorded videos for public questions and requests to speak on an agenda item submitted in the correct form prior to the council meeting will be played at the appropriate time during the meeting and included in the recording of the meeting. No other person has the right to record council meetings unless approval has been granted by the chair. As per the Minister's Good Practice Guideline issued by the Minister for Local Government on 29 April 2020, the intention is to ensure the normal, ordinary business of Council can continue through the use of electronic communication. The Victorian Government announced on the 23rd of April amendments to the COVID-19 Omnibus Emergency Measures Bill 2020, which relates to the Local Government Act 2020, allowing council meetings to be conducted by electronic means, video conferencing from the 1st of May until the 1st of November 2020. The amendments have provision that councillors will be able to electronically attend council meetings and the requirement that council meetings to be open to the public will be satisfied where the meeting is live streamed. The amendments do not inhibit councillors from attending a meeting in person in the council chamber. Members of the public are invited to view the council meeting live stream by following the link to the council's website or Facebook page. On behalf of Council, I would like to acknowledge the Gunai people, the traditional owners of the land on which we are gathered, and pay our respects to their elders, both past and present. Now, I'm looking here for my statement, which seems to have eluded me, but I'll run through it. Here we go. This was to be spoken to those of you who are online, councillors. So a member's attendance can only be recorded at present where the member can confirm that they meet all three of the following. They can hear the proceedings, they can see other members in attendance and can be seen by other members, and they can be heard to speak. So councillors must confirm all of the above conditions to be noted as present for the meeting. A quorum will not be made if these conditions are not met, and the meeting will be adjourned until a quorum is met, or postponed if a quorum cannot be met. If technical difficulties are encountered by council during the meeting, including with the live streaming, we will adjourn until the resolution of the issues, or postpone to a later time and or date. I will now confirm with each councillor in turn that they can see, hear and be heard by each other, and to note assurance from each that the location they are participating from is secure to ensure deliberations are confidential. So Councillor, I'll begin with Councillor Ellis. Can you see and hear us? Councillor Ellis, your microphone is on mute.
I can, Mr Mayor, and I can see all the other councillors and the chamber.
And also, can you confirm that the location you are participating from is secure to ensure that deliberations are confidential?
Yes, I'm in my own office.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts, could you also confirm you can see and hear us? And
That
can
is
you also
confirmed.
confirm that the location you are participating from is secure and to ensure that deliberations are confidential?
I can confirm that, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Reeves, also, can you see and hear us? And can you confirm that your location you're participating from is secure to ensure the deliberations are confidential?
Thank you, Mayor. I can confirm all the above.
Thank you very much. Now, Councillor O'Connell, also, can you see and hear us? And can you confirm that the location you are participating from is secure to ensure deliberations are confidential?
I can confirm to all of the above. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connell. Now to get up to where I jumped forward to prematurely. So, Mr CEO, at item 1.2, do we have any apologies?
There are no apologies, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. 1.3 is are there declarations of conflict of interest?
Mr Mayor, I have two declarations from staff, one being the General Manager of Assets and Environment, Fiona Weigel, and one being the General Manager of Place and Community, Jodie Pitkin, both for items 5.1.2.
Thank you. That will be duly minuted. 1.4, a confirmation of the minutes from our last Ordinary Council meeting on the 23rd of June to be confirmed. Could I thank you, Councillor Rotino, and seconded by Councillor Peltz. Thank you for that. So all those in favour that the confirmations are correct, thank you. That is 8, and Councillor Roberts has not voted because Councillor Roberts was not present at the last meeting. Thank you, councillors. So, our next Ordinary Council meeting for Tuesday the 4th of August to be held at the Corporate Centre, 273 Main Street, Bairnsdale, commencing at 1 p.m. However, Council is considering changing the start time to 6 p.m. As per Council's local law number 1 at section 3.2, the Chief Executive Officer, in collaboration with the Mayor and councillors, may change the date, time and place of any council meeting that has been determined previously and must provide public notice. 1.6, do we have any requests for leave of absence, Mr CEO?
There are no requests for leave of absence, Mr Mayor.
1.7, requests to speak about your community project.
There is no request, Mr Mayor.
And at 1.8, public question time.
There are no public questions, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. So at 1.9, we are looking at the record of assemblies of councillors, and that council notes the record of assemblies of councils that occurred during the period 26th of May to 29th of June 2020, together with one record not previously presented from the 15th of May 2020 as provided at Appendix 1. So Mr Canizzaro, would you like to speak to that slight change, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So before you is the Assembly of Councillors, May-June, and you will note that there is a recommendation to note the Assemblies of Councillors for the period 26th of May to 29th of June 2020, and also the recording of one item for the 15th of May 2020 that was not previously recorded.
Happy to
Thank
move
you.
it.
So, Councillor Peltz, you'll move that. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Buckley. Councillors, all those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. So, 10 is petitions. Mr CEO.
There are no petitions, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor, if I may.
Councillor Ellis?
Yes, I
You may
acknowledge
speak.
there are no petitions as such lodged, but to inform people who are watching this matter from in relation to a property at number 20 Hardy Street, their letter has been acknowledged and I will be in contact with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Duly noted. Item 2, notices of motion and or rescission.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There are no notices of motion or rescission at this meeting.
Thanks, Mr CEO. And also item 3, we have our deferred business. 3.1, the planning application.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, there is an item of deferred business from the last council meeting, and as stated there, the matter is listed at 5.1.2 and will be discussed and can be resolved and discussed there.
Thank you. So it brings us to item 4, which is our councillor delegate reports. So, Councillor Tui, would you like to begin?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Excuse me. Short and sweet. I attended a couple of items over the course of the last month, one of which was a planning mediation session that myself and Councillor Reeves had for an issue in Marlow, and I must say it was a pleasure to be involved in that mediation session. We had quite a number of people who were objecting to a planning permit application there, and I believe we ultimately attained an outcome that was going to work for both the proponent and the objectors. So it was a terrific thing to be part of, and I must say that the people who were at that meeting were very courteous, polite, and it was a wonderful meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tui. Councillor Rotino.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I submitted my report up until the 23rd of June at the last council meeting, but I would like to take the opportunity, with your indulgence, to congratulate Christy McBain across the border, who was successful in the Eden Monero by-election on the weekend, and we wish her all the luck and success, and she's been a great champion for her region and regional Australia, and we'll watch her with interest. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Buckley.
Excuse me, the feral horse issue, the gentleman that organised the Save the Brumby issue failed to get one horse off the high plains. However, the Halley Cult seems to be abandoned, and his efforts in raising donation money appears to be far more successful. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Buckley. Councillor Peltz.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, but you'll be pleased to note that I haven't got anything to say, and my reports have been at previous meetings now. Thank you.
I just wonder if I heard that correctly, Councillor Peltz, but thank you very much. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have nothing to add from my last report from last week, aside from just normal meetings, so thank you.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing to add this month. Thank you.
Councillor Reeves.
Thanks, Mayor and councillors and those who are listening. That was an excellent consultation mediation meeting that Councillor Tui has referred to earlier, and I thank him and the officers for their work in that particular meeting. And just echoing Councillor Rotino's comments about former Mayor of Bega, Christy McBain, and congratulate her on a tough fight and a one-percenter up there in Eden Monero. So thanks very much, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Reeves. Councillor O'Connell.
Thanks, Mayor. We'll add that I had a Victorian Bushfire Appeal panel meeting over the last week, and lots of good things happening in that space. I'll leave it there.
Thank you. I'll also make my report quite brief. We did get a visit from the Honourable Jacqueline Symes, our Minister for Agriculture in Victoria, and she came down and actually paid us a visit. She went to several sites around our region, but it was good that she could take the time to meet with us here in the chamber, and it was good. She was obviously, as they are all very busy, she was in a hurry, but she did have time to listen and took particular note of the fact that, particularly for Councillor O'Connell, Councillor Buckley, we know that your areas are still under stress from the drought, as is the other high country of the Galanapi and Woolgoomerang areas. So she has taken that back with her. She's now across the subject that, the area is still suffering from the drought, and of course everything else that's happened. So it was good to see her, and good that her advisors have taken note of what our comments were. And just as recently as last Friday, I did attend a meeting on site regarding one of our local roads, and it was a surprise that it had attracted quite a lot of attention. The public were pleased that councillors had taken an interest in their worries about the possible renaming and readdressing of a road, but it was good to be able to tell them that this was only out for public submissions at this stage. They thought it was a done deal, so we've explained to them that all they need to do is to please submit their letters before the first week of August, and that will then be considered by council. And as I did try to explain to them, it is not a done deal. We are looking for a way forward in this possible problem with the road naming. So with that, it is still business as usual. So we will move forward now to our first item of our officer reports, item 5.1, which is strong communities, and it is dogs in public places, extension of our trial period. And I'm thinking, yes, I can see Sam on the screen, so would you like to speak to this, Mr McPherson, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor, and good afternoon, councillors. The report before you this afternoon recommends the extension of the current dogs in public places trial for an additional 12 months. Councillors may recall that at the November 2019 Ordinary Council meeting, a resolution was passed to adopt a trial period which changed the order issued under the Domestic Animals Act in relation to where dogs can be off-leash and on-leash in public places within the municipality. This original recommendation sought officers to report back to council after a 6-month period. However, at the current time, due to the impacts of both the summer's bushfires and then more recently the COVID or coronavirus social distancing restrictions, officers believe that we're unable to provide a legitimate and thorough report back and a thorough evaluation on the order. So we're seeking a 12-month extension and a recommendation that officers will report back at a future council meeting no later than July 2021. I'm happy to take any questions on the matter any councillors may have.
Thank you for that, Sam. So straight away we have a question from Councillor Peltz.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just curiosity's sakes, any feedback from the public, because I know from what I've encountered on public walks with our dog, that people are more delighted with this, and I was just curious to know if there was any feedback to council at all on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Pels. At the moment, we do have a small amount of feedback. Obviously, there's sections of the community who are enjoying being able to exercise their dogs off-leash in certain areas. Councillors may recall that that's the previous stance or order was that all dogs need to be on leash at all times with no off-leash areas. So there has been sections of the community that are enjoying having opportunities to exercise their dogs off leash. Yes, that's correct. That's the feedback at the moment.
If I may, Mr McPherson, Just question as to how we're going to monitor or engage the success or unsuccessful, counting of this. How is it going to be rolled out to the community for their input?
Yes, so thank you, Councillor Pels. At the moment, officers have been recording phone calls and documents coming in to council via way of reports through both our CRM system and our document management system, and then classifying those as to whether they're what I'd term as a standard dog wandering report, which council would expect to receive regardless of whether this order was in place or not, or whether it was a specific item that related to the change in the order with the dogs off leash areas. So we'll be looking at both using that, I term it hard data, as well as undertaking community consultation and feedback from the broader community as well as part of the evaluation process.
And may I just question whether we've had any savaging? Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Pels, I just missed the tail end of that question.
I was just wondering if there's been any savaging or biting incidences reported in this period whilst we've been having the trial run.
At this stage, Councillor Pels, we don't believe that there's been any, or the evidence we have at the moment doesn't suggest that there's been any increase as a result of the trial. Yes, there have been reports made, but we don't believe that they're as a result of the trial orders being in place.
Thank you.
Councillors, have you any more questions for Sam? Okay, thank you. Councillor Peltz has moved that and Councillor Toohey has seconded it. So thank you. Would you like to speak to this, Councillor Peltz?
I would just like to say that the bulk amount of people, like I suggested before, that I've engaged, enjoying their dog's company out in walks and helping our region, adhere to the lifestyle that we've actually committed to in our council plan, a healthy, active lifestyle. So I think it's a really great positive about the dogs in public places, and the trial period was just one step towards the dog off leash that we were trying to copy our counterparts or make available to our community. So I can understand the implications of the bushfire and the COVID has been a difficult time, and I respect the officers' thoughts on making this extended for another 12 months. I think it's a great outcome. Thank you.
Councillor Toohey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And just further to that, our community's mental health and physical health as well, getting out, socialising, obviously at a distance with other people. So no, it's a great outcome all round. It would have been nice to have had the data that we were after, but this 12-month extension should give us that opportunity. Thank you.
So any other councillors wishing to speak for or against? Okay. All right. Well, all those in favour of the extension? Thank you, councillors. That is unanimous. This brings us to item 5.1.2, which is a planning permit application 319/2019/P, 31 Boyd Court, a multi-lot subdivision staged. So this is to Ms Pitkin. Would you wish to speak to this, please?
Mr Mayor, sorry.
Oh, I do remember. She is an apology.
And I have
Not everyone speak at once, but thank you for that.
And Mr Mayor, I have a request to speak on the item as well.
Yes, you do. And then I see Ms Reynolds has come into the picture, so I guess she will speak to it after you've read your letter out. Thank you, Mr Cannizzaro.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, I have a request to speak on agenda item 5.1.2 for permit application 319/2019/P at 31 Boyd Court, Eagle Point. The request to speak has been made by Jackie Barlow of Paynesville. The letter is lengthy, so it may be over 5 minutes, Mr Mayor, so I'll just make note of that.
Thank you. I think we can allow that. It's the only letter that you have, so I think we could allow that.
So the letter is dated the 6th of July 2020, and it's addressed, Dear Mr Mayor, Councillors, Planning Department personnel and council officers. I am writing on behalf of my family, neighbours, friends and residents of Eagle Point to sincerely request that you accept the recommendations of the Council's Planning Department to issue a Notice of Decision to refuse to grant a permit for Planning Permit Application 319/2019/P, a 17-lot subdivision at 31 Boyd Court, Eagle Point. The basis for the refusal is summarised by the Planning Department as follows. The layout of the subdivision fails to address the prevailing neighbourhood character and pattern of subdivision. The lot density will result in a subdivision pattern which is inconsistent with existing neighbourhood character, and the lot density will result in a subdivision pattern which is inconsistent with the strategic outcomes of the Eagle Point Structure Plan dated May 2019, brackets EPSP, as adopted by Council in August 2019 at item 5.2.1. The zoning of the land and the in-principle notion of subdividing this land is not contested. However, the specific design of the subdivision results in an unacceptable outcome. At the time of writing, I note that there have been 4 objections, including my own, to this proposal. The number of objections does not accurately project the feelings of many residents. Some of our neighbours and friends do not or are not able to present objections to Council for various reasons. Others believe that their opinions will not be considered, and some feel that an abundance of objections will overwhelm the process with duplicated letters and repeated information. There are a few objectors to this development proposal in its current layout and form who have added their names to this letter. As a resident of Eagle Point, my husband and I were very interested in participating when community consultation was undertaken for the Eagle Point Structure Plan. We submitted surveys and attended 3 community meetings, as well as having direct meetings with members of Council's Planning Department. The overwhelming feedback that we received from these officials was that a majority of Eagle Point's residents were concerned about keeping the rural, open-spaced village feel within the community by retaining larger size development allotments. Records indicate that the Eagle Point Structure Plan consultation commenced in 2012. The plan was revived in 2016 and incorporated the feedback from the community that was gathered in 2012. Obviously, there have been a lot of discussions, ideas and information provided by the Eagle Point community and residents to finalise this 30-year plan for the future development of Eagle Point. On the 6th of August 2019, the then Mayor Natalie O'Connell and Councillors Ben Buckley, Richard Ellis, Mary Ann Peltz, Mark Reeves, Joe Rotino, Colin Toohey and John White voted unanimously to adopt the Eagle Point Structure Plan. Absent with apology was Councillor Jackson Roberts. The Eagle Point Structure Plan sets a clear vision which reflected the community's feedback and expectation. The overriding objective is that Eagle Point will remain a small village. On balance, the Eagle Point Structure Plan proposed modest growth for residential expansion. Among the positive attributes of the structure plan is the strategic action to introduce a new schedule for the low-density residential neighbourhood zones to raise the minimum lot size from 2,000 to 4,000 square metres, even if reticulated sewer is available. This was recommended to reflect the prevailing neighbourhood character and to protect it from inappropriate development. It was also recommended due to the overwhelming community feedback indicating the needs of the Eagle Point residents to retain larger sized development blocks. Although there have been subdivisions with smaller land sized allotments, brackets 2,000 plus square metres, approved in this area, they were approved in 2017 to 2018 before the finalisation and adoption of the EPSP. We sincerely request councillors to give appropriate weight to the EPSP and the recommendation that minimum lot sizes of 4,000 square metres be adhered to in this area. Having unanimously adopted the Eagle Point Structure Plan, there is an expectation from the residents, the community and your constituents that councillors will vote to refuse to grant a permit for the 17-lot subdivision in the current proposed size and form at 31 Boyd Court, Eagle Point. Thank you very much for your time and consideration in this matter. Yours sincerely, Jackie Barlow and Steve Barlow. The following residents have agreed to add their names to this letter, authorising me to include them in this appeal. Due to the COVID-19 restrictions currently in place, their signatures are not included. The names are Deb and Wayne Benson, Harry's Lane, Robin Vandersilk, Harry's Lane, Josephine and Peter Thornton, Harry's Lane, Brian and Louise O'Neill of Forge Creek, Greg and Sue Ward, Lake Victoria Road, and Morris and Barbara McKenzie, Lake Victoria Road. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Cannizzaro. By my time, that was actually 5 minutes. Very good. So, councillors, now we can hear from Ms Reynolds.
Good afternoon, Mr Mayor, councillors and members of the ELT and public. Today's item at 5.1.2 is a council report which documents planning permit application 319/2019/P for Peter, which is seeking approval for a 17-lot subdivision to be completed in stages. The application was lodged with Council in October 2019, and has been subject to public notice provisions and has attracted 3 objections at the time of writing the report. I note an additional objection was received following the previous consideration of this item, and that objection forms part of the attached documents. The subject land is zoned for low-density residential purposes and is identified in current local strategies as being suitable for low-density development. The officer's recommendation before Council today is to seek resolution to issue a notice of refusal to grant a permit on 3 grounds. The 3 grounds, as outlined, relate to inconsistency with current local planning policy, as contained within our current municipal strategic statement, namely relating to environmental and landscape values, the built environment, and specific strategies relating to Eagle Point. The current MSS, or Municipal Strategic Statement, sets out a vision and objectives for Eagle Point. In August 2019, Council adopted the Eagle Point Structure Plan as a key strategy designed specifically to manage change in Eagle Point for the long term. It recognises specifically change within the town and the need to have regard for existing character. Community consultation and engagement around the preparation of the Eagle Point Structure Plan was extensive and inclusive. A draft structure plan was released for community consultation for an 8-week period during September to November in 2018, which culminated in the release of a What We Heard paper in February 2019. The importance of neighbourhood character and landscape featured in the What We Heard paper. For the reasons outlined and documented in the Council report and outlined in summary here, it is with respect that we request that Council consider the planning arguments provided and resolve to issue a notice of decision to refuse to grant a planning permit based on the 3 grounds as written. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms Reynolds. Councillors, anyone with questions? Councillor Rottino.
Ms Reynolds, I was wondering, for the benefit of any listeners, whether you could explain what the steps are once Council adopts a structure plan like Eagle Point Structure Plan, the steps before it actually becomes part of our planning scheme.
Thank you, Councillor Rottino, for your questions. The next steps are to prepare a planning scheme amendment documentation to be subject to public notice as part of the implementation of the structure plan into the East Gippsland planning scheme. In this case, it is envisaged that it will incorporate key elements in relation to local planning policy and key elements in relation to schedule to zones and existing zones in addition to some minor forward planning and rezoning potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Reynolds. Councillors, any more questions? You can.
Happy to move it, Mayor.
So, Councillor Reeves, you wish to move this? Sorry.
Correct.
Yep. Well, Councillor Toohey has just wishes to speak.
Mr Mayor, I did have an alternative motion prepared earlier, but there has been some changes made within that motion that changes the overall design of the proposal, which was not in line with what I had requested. So my motion will now be to defer this until we've had a briefing on the alternative motion that I was given.
I'm not sure if I need to raise a point, Mayor, but I do have a motion on the table.
Yeah. Okay. Just to correct there, it was Councillor Toohey who first raised the issue of the alternative motion.
Sorry, Councillor. Sorry, Mayor. I just point out that I didn't hear that, and because of the the nature of our meeting, I wouldn't consider that. I think we need to deal with the recommendation first. Yeah, I'm not hearing anything.
Mr Mayor, if I may,
at the moment.
there's a point of order. The point of order has been called by Councillor Reeves, so you need to determine the point of order before you move on, and that is your call to determine how that which way that goes.
Thank you. Yes, apologies for the, it is a difficult situation in dealing with these meetings with some people Skyping and others here live. So you obviously did not hear that. So, but your point of order, Councillor Reeves, could you please repeat that?
I believe that I indicated that I would move the motion, and I would still like to have that motion put. The recommendation as in the report.
Well, the fact that Councillor Toohey had raised his alternative motion before you spoke, which is possibly unfortunate that you didn't hear that.
Mr Mayor, if I could just interrupt there, and my apologies, because I know that we're talking about points of order, but we have lost one of the councillors from the screen. So we just need to check their status, perhaps before we go on.
Yep.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Mr CEO. So at this stage, now that we have lost connection with one of our councillors, I feel that we need to adjourn the meeting until such stage as we can get Councillor Roberts back online. So if staff would like to stop for 5 minutes. We think it'll be about 5 minutes, so if staff would like to stop the live streaming as we adjourn and try and get Councillor Roberts back online.
Sure, I'll just mute the microphone.